Why the black people like me, because they have been hurt so badly and discriminated against. And they actually viewed me as I'm being discriminated against. It's been pretty amazing, but it possibly, I don't know, maybe there's something there.
In a shocking and deeply troubling turn of events, former President Donald Trump has once again found himself at the center of controversy. During a speech at the Black Conservative Foundation Gala, Trump made an unbelievably racist claim that black people like him because of his mugshot. This audacious statement has ignited a firestorm of outrage and condemnation from political commentators, campaign managers, and the black community at large. In this video, I will show you how black leaders recently blasted Trump for his racist comments. The reaction. In his speech, Trump didn't hold back. He boldly declared,
I got indicted for nothing, for something that is nothing. They were doing it because it's election interference. And then I got indicted a second time, and a third time, and a fourth time.
He went on to suggest that black people support him because they have been hurt and discriminated against, and they view him as someone who has also faced discrimination. This audacious claim left many in disbelief. Trump's reference to his mugshot taken in Fulton County, Georgia last summer added another layer of shock to his speech. He claimed that the black population has embraced his mugshot, stating,
It's incredible. You see black people walking around with my mugshot. You know, they do shirts and they sell them for $19 a piece.
This statement further fueled the controversy surrounding his remarks. Political commentators wasted no time in expressing their outrage. Jonathan Capehart of MSNBC called the speech unbelievably racist. He urged viewers to share clips of the speech with their Trump-supporting friends, emphasizing the need to understand the racist undertones and the threat it poses to democracy. Capehart's strong condemnation resonated with many who believe that Trump's divisive rhetoric has no place in politics.
Come on now. Does he think he's Biggie Smalls? Who is America? Please share it with your Trump-loving friends. These clips, actually, they might like it. But have them understand why what we just heard is so unbelievably racist.
Another moment that added to the shock factor was when Trump complained about the bright lights during his speech, seemingly implying that he could only see black audience members. He stated,
These lights are so bright in my eyes that I can't see too many people out there. But I can only see the black ones. I can't see any white ones. You see? That's how far I've come.
This remark only added to the growing condemnation. Betsy Ankney, campaign manager for Nikki Haley, was quick to condemn Trump's speech, labeling it as more of the same chaos, more of the same drama, more of the same baggage. Her words echoed the sentiments of many who believe that Trump's divisive rhetoric has no place in politics. Ankney's strong stance highlights the need for leaders who can unite rather than divide. Jasmine Harris, black media director for President Joe Biden's campaign, did not mince words when she referred to Trump as an anti-black tyrant. She highlighted his history of false accusations against the Central Park Five, his questioning of George Floyd's humanity, and his comparison of his impeachment trial to being lynched. Harris also pointed out that the unemployment gap for black workers spiked during his presidency, further solidifying her stance on Trump's anti-black sentiments. The fallout from Trump's speech has been significant, with many expressing their disappointment and outrage. The claim that black people support him because of his mugshot and indictments is not only baseless, but also perpetuates harmful stereotypes. It is a stark reminder of the divisive rhetoric that characterized Trump's presidency. Mondale Robinson, founder of the Black Male Voter Project, denouncing Trump's statements as racist and disconnected from the reality experienced by black Americans.
That's why the black people like me, because they have been hurt so badly and discriminated against. And they actually viewed me as I'm being discriminated against. It's been pretty amazing, but it possibly, I don't know, maybe there's something there.
Black leaders across the nation wasted no time in expressing their outrage and condemnation of former President Trump's recent comments about black voters. Speaking at the Black Derek Johnson, the president of the NAACP, was quick to respond to Trump's comments. In a statement to The Hill, Johnson expressed his outrage and lack of surprise, stating, "The NAACP is outraged, but not surprised by yet another racist remark from the former president." Johnson went on to say that Trump is delusional to think that his criminality would be an attractive quality to black voters. He emphasized that Trump has taken advantage of an inherently racist system, while black Americans have been abused by it. Johnson made it clear that black Americans and Trump are not the same, and his comments only serve to further divide the nation. Mondale Robinson, the founder of the Black Male Voter Project, also condemned Trump's comments as absolutely racist. In an interview, Robinson expressed his disappointment and frustration, stating, "This is nothing but a continuation of Donald Trump being who he has always been." Robinson Johnson emphasized that black men are not living in a silo and are well aware of Trump's history of racism. He stated, "Black men are not living in a silo. It's not as if we don't know this. We see it. The world might be fooled, but that's not moving to us." Robinson's words highlight the fact that Trump's attempts to gain support from black voters are falling flat, as his racist remarks only serve to reinforce the negative perception many have of him. The reactions from Johnson and Robinson are just a glimpse into the widespread condemnation of Trump's comments. Black leaders from various organizations and communities have spoken out against his remarks, denouncing them as divisive and harmful. The comments made by Trump at the BCF gala were not only offensive, but also demonstrated a complete lack of understanding and empathy towards the black community. The reactions from black leaders highlight the deep-seated frustration and disappointment felt by many in the black community. Trump's comments serve as a painful reminder of the racism and discrimination that black Americans have long endured. It is a stark reminder that despite progress made in the fight for racial equality, there is still much work to be done. Trump's comments about black voters have far-reaching implications that extend beyond just his words. They shed light on the ongoing struggle for racial equality in America and highlight the need for continued activism and advocacy. Trump's claim that black people support him because they have been hurt and discriminated against is not only unfounded, but also dismissive of the systemic racism that black Americans face. This assertion is not only offensive, but also trivializes the experiences of black individuals who have been unfairly targeted by law enforcement. These comments from Trump are indicative of a larger problem in America: the perpetuation of harmful stereotypes and the failure to address the deep-rooted issues of racism and discrimination. While progress has been made in the fight for racial equality, Trump's remarks serve as a reminder that there is still much work to be done. The struggle for racial equality in America has a long and complex history. From slavery to Jim Crow laws to the civil rights movement, black Americans have fought tirelessly for their rights and equal treatment under the law. However, the fight is far from over. Systemic racism continues to persist in various aspects of American society, from education to healthcare to the criminal justice system. Black Americans face higher rates of poverty, unemployment, and incarceration compared to their white counterparts. They also experience disparities in access to quality education, healthcare, and housing. These inequalities are not the result of individual choices or shortcomings, but rather the result of systemic barriers that have been ingrained in American society for centuries. Trump's comments only serve to perpetuate these inequalities and further marginalize black Americans. By dismissing the struggles and experiences of black individuals, he reinforces harmful stereotypes and undermines the progress that has been made in the fight for racial equality. However, despite the challenges, black leaders and activists continue to push for change. Organizations like the NAACP, Black Lives Matter, and countless others are working tirelessly to address systemic racism and advocate for policies that promote equality and justice. The Black Lives Matter movement in particular has gained significant momentum in recent years, drawing attention to the issues of police brutality and racial profiling. The movement has sparked nationwide protests and calls for police reform, as well as a broader conversation about the need for racial justice. In response to Trump's comments, black leaders have emphasized the importance of voting and political engagement. They recognize that change must come from within the system and that electing officials who prioritize racial equality is crucial. By mobilizing black voters and encouraging civic participation, they aim to create a more inclusive and equitable society. The struggle for racial equality is not limited to the black community alone. It requires the collective effort of individuals from all backgrounds to challenge and dismantle the systems of oppression that perpetuate racism. It requires acknowledging and confronting one's own biases and actively working towards creating a more just and equitable society. As news of Donald Trump's suggestion that black voters relate to his indictment spread like wildfire, the response was swift and intense. More critics wasted no time in expressing their outrage, labeling his remarks as disgusting and racist. Among those who condemned Trump's comments was his primary rival, Nikki Haley, who didn't hold back in her criticism.
It's disgusting, but that's what happens when he goes off the teleprompter. That's the chaos that comes with Donald Trump. That's the offensiveness that's going to happen every day between now and the general election, which is why I continue to say Donald Trump cannot win a general election.
Haley, who is vying for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination, saw Trump's comments about black people as a huge warning sign. She linked his remarks to the need for a more focused and responsible approach to campaigning. Haley's strong words resonated with many who saw Trump's comments as a step too far. But she wasn't the only one to speak out against him. President Joe Biden, a staunch opponent of Trump, also voiced his disapproval. Donald Trump claiming that black Americans will support him because because of his criminal charges is insulting. It's moronic, and it's just plain racist. Cedric Richmond, a co-chair of Biden's re-election campaign, echoed these sentiments in a statement, accusing Trump of underestimating the intelligence of black voters. He thinks black voters are so uninformed that we won't see through his shameless pandering. The Democratic National Committee also joined the chorus of criticism, releasing a statement that accused Trump of showing black voters exactly what he thinks of them. They described his ideas to win them over as corny and racist. Donald Trump is showing black voters exactly what he thinks of them, and his ideas to win them over are as corny and racist as he is. Reverend Al Sharpton, a prominent civil rights activist, held a news conference to express his outrage at Trump's comments. This is an epitome of an insult to black folks, and if any black Republicans had any dignity, they would denounce this characterization of black folk by Donald Trump. Sharpton emphasized that Trump's remarks went beyond politics, touching on the deeply rooted injustices faced by black Americans. It goes past politics, the nerve to act like we relate to mugshots. We all know a mugshots because the criminal justice system in many cases wasn't fair to us. The backlash against Trump's comments was swift and fierce, with critics from all sides of the political spectrum condemning his words. However, it's important to note that not all of Trump's black supporters shared the same level of outrage. I'm not saying that everything that Donald Trump says that I'm for it, but I'm not for 100% of what any politician says. Carketta Lindsay, a black supporter from Raleigh, North Carolina, acknowledged that she doesn't agree with everything Trump says, but emphasized that this is true for any politician. Her perspective highlights the diversity of opinions within the black community. Trump's history of stoking racial tensions. Love him or hate him, there's no denying that Donald Trump's political journey has been marked by controversy, and his campaign strategies have often been criticized for their divisive nature. From the moment he announced his candidacy, Trump's rhetoric and actions have sparked outrage and fueled racial tensions across the nation. In the early stages of his campaign, Trump wasted no time in making controversial statements that would set the tone for the divisive rhetoric to come.
They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
These words, targeting Mexican immigrants, immediately ignited a firestorm of controversy and accusations of racism. But Trump didn't stop there. He continued to stoke racial tensions by proposing a policy that would ban Muslims from entering the United States. In December 2015, he called for a
total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on.
This proposal, based on fear and prejudice, while applauded in his rallies, further divided the nation along religious lines. Throughout his campaign, Trump also targeted African Americans, making statements that many considered racially insensitive. In a rally in August 2016, he asked African American voters, "What do you have to lose by trying something new like Trump?" This remark, implying that the African American community was in a state of despair, drew widespread criticism and fueled racial tensions. Another incident that shocked the nation occurred during a rally in Louisville, Kentucky, in March 2016. Trump supporters physically attacked a young African-American woman who was peacefully protesting. Instead of condemning the violence, Trump remarked, get her out, don't hurt her, please. If I say, go get her, I get in trouble with the press." This lack of condemnation only served to embolden his supporters and deepen the racial divide. It is important to note that these incidents were not isolated occurrences, but rather a pattern of behavior throughout Trump's campaign. He consistently used racially charged language and rhetoric to appeal to a certain segment of the population, tapping into their fears and prejudices for political gain. In addition to his verbal attacks, Trump also surrounded himself with individuals who had a history of promoting racist ideologies. One notable example is Steve Bannon, who served as Trump's chief strategist. Bannon, the former executive chairman of Breitbart News, a platform known for promoting white nationalism, brought his divisive ideology into the heart of the Trump administration. As the campaign progressed, Trump's divisive rhetoric and actions continued to stoke racial tensions. He often used social media, particularly Twitter, as a platform to spread his controversial messages. His tweets targeting individuals of different races and ethnicities further fueled the flames of division, creating an environment of hostility and animosity. From the very beginning, it became evident that racial divisions would remain at the forefront of the national conversation. One of the defining moments of Trump's presidency was the tragic events that unfolded in Charlottesville, Virginia, in August 2017. White supremacists and neo-Nazis gathered for a Unite the Right rally rally, resulting in violent clashes with counter-protesters. Amidst the chaos, a white supremacist drove his car into a crowd of counter-protesters, killing Heather Heyer, a young woman who stood against hate. In response to this horrific incident, Trump infamously stated that there were very fine people on both sides, equating the white supremacists with those who stood against racism. This statement sent shockwaves throughout the nation and further deepened racial tensions. Trump's stance on immigration also played a significant role in exacerbating racial divisions. His administration implemented a zero-tolerance policy, resulting in the separation of thousands of migrant children from their families at the U.S.-Mexico border. The images and stories of children held in detention centers sparked outrage and condemnation from both sides of the political spectrum. Critics argued that this policy disproportionately affected immigrant families, particularly those from Latin American countries, and further fueled anti-immigrant sentiments. Furthermore, Trump's rhetoric surrounding the Black Lives Matter movement and protests against police brutality drew widespread criticism. In response to the protests that erupted following the killing of George Floyd, an unarmed black man, by a police officer, Trump tweeted, "When the looting starts, the shooting starts." This tweet was seen by many as a call for violence against protesters and only served to deepen the racial divide. Another incident that highlighted Trump's divisive approach to racial issues was his response to NFL players kneeling during the national anthem to protest racial injustice. Rather than acknowledging the concerns behind the protests, Trump characterized the players as unpatriotic and called for their dismissal. This sparked a nationwide debate on freedom of expression, racial inequality, and the role of athletes in advocating for social change. It is also worth mentioning Trump's controversial travel ban, which targeted predominantly Muslim-majority countries. The ban, which went through several iterations, was met with widespread criticism and legal challenges. Critics argued that it unfairly targeted individuals based on their religion and perpetuated Islamophobia, further dividing the nation along religious lines. Throughout his presidency, Trump's use of social media remained a powerful tool for stoking racial tensions. His tweets often targeted minority communities, perpetuating stereotypes and promoting a divisive narrative. These messages resonated with his base, but further alienated marginalized groups and deepened racial divisions. Trump's use of racially charged language also contributed to the perception of racism within the Republican Party. He infamously referred to African nations as shithole countries during a discussion on immigration, sparking outrage and accusations of racism. Such remarks reinforced the belief that Trump held prejudiced views towards marginalized communities. The racial tensions and controversies that unfolded during Donald Trump's presidency had a profound impact on the Republican Party and its perception among the public. As the nation grappled with issues of racism and inequality, the party found itself at a crossroads. One of the key consequences of these controversies was the deepening divide within the Republican Party itself. While some party members stood by Trump and defended his actions, others expressed concerns about the party's association with racially charged rhetoric and policies. This internal struggle highlighted the ideological fractures within the party and raised questions about its commitment to inclusivity and equality. The perception of the Republican Party as racially insensitive or even racist became increasingly prevalent during Trump's presidency. Critics argued that the party's alignment with Trump's divisive rhetoric and policies reinforced this perception. The party's failure to distance itself from racially charged incidents, such as Charlottesville, further fueled the narrative that the Republican Party was tolerant of racism. The racial tensions and controversies also had implications for the party's future. As the nation became more diverse, the Republican Party faced the challenge of adapting to changing demographics. The perception of racism within the party hindered its ability to connect with and gain the trust of minority communities. Without addressing these concerns, the party risked further marginalization and a diminishing influence in national politics. However, it is important to note that not all Republicans supported or condoned Trump's actions and rhetoric. Many within the party recognized the need for inclusivity and worked towards promoting a more diverse and tolerant Republican Party. These individuals sought to distance themselves from the perception of racism and actively advocated for policies that addressed racial inequalities. The impact of the racial tensions and controversies during Trump's presidency extended beyond the Republican Party itself. The nation as a whole grappled with questions of identity, equality, and justice. The controversies sparked a national conversation about systemic racism and the need for meaningful change. The Republican Party's response to these challenges would shape its future trajectory. Some argued that the party needed to undergo a fundamental transformation, embracing a more inclusive and progressive platform. Others believed that the party should double down on its conservative principles while actively addressing concerns of racial inequality. The impact of these controversies extended beyond the party's image. The Republican Party faced challenges in attracting diverse diverse voters, particularly communities of color. Trump's rhetoric and policies on immigration, racial profiling, and police brutality alienated many voters who felt marginalized or targeted by his administration. This posed a significant obstacle for the party's efforts to broaden its base and appeal to a more diverse electorate. The implications of his presidency will continue to shape the future of racial relations in America. One of the most significant consequences of Trump's history of stoking racial tensions is the polarization of the nation. The deep divisions that emerged during his presidency have left a lasting impact on the social fabric of the United States. Communities have become more fragmented, and trust between different racial and ethnic groups has eroded. The wounds inflicted by Trump's rhetoric will take time to heal, and the path to unity seems more challenging than ever. Moreover, Trump's presidency has emboldened extremist groups and white supremacists. His reluctance to unequivocally condemn these groups and his equivocal statements have given them a sense of validation and empowerment. Hate crimes have surged, and marginalized communities continue to face discrimination and prejudice. The consequences of this resurgence of hate will be felt for years to come. Another lasting impact of Trump's history of stoking racial tensions is the erosion of trust in institutions. His attacks on the media, the judiciary, and other pillars of democracy have undermined the public's faith in these institutions. This erosion of trust has had a disproportionate impact on minority communities, who already face systemic barriers and discrimination. Restoring trust in these institutions will be crucial for fostering a more inclusive and equitable society. Furthermore, Trump's presidency has highlighted the urgent need for comprehensive immigration reform. The harsh policies implemented during his tenure have left a lasting impact on immigrant communities, particularly those from Latin American countries. Families have been torn apart, and the trauma inflicted on children held in detention centers will have long-term consequences. Moving forward, it is imperative to address immigration in a humane and compassionate manner, recognizing the contributions and humanity of immigrants. The Black Lives Matter movement also gained significant momentum during Trump's presidency. The protests against racial injustice and police brutality that erupted across the nation highlighted the urgent need for systemic change. While Trump's response to these protests further deepened racial divisions, they also sparked a national conversation on racial inequality. The legacy of these protests will continue to shape the fight for racial justice in the years to come. Looking ahead, it is crucial to learn from the history of Trump's stoking of racial tensions. The United States must confront its deep-rooted racial inequalities and work towards building a more inclusive and equitable society. This requires addressing systemic racism, promoting dialogue and understanding, and fostering empathy and compassion. Trump's support from minorities. Despite his election defeat, President Donald Trump can boast a surprising success. He was more popular with ethnic minority voters than in 2016. This is particularly surprising considering the accusations of racism and Islamophobia that were leveled against him. Now we will delve into the reasons behind Trump's unique appeal to minorities and uncover the shocking truth behind his increased support. We will explore the influence of Texas, the impact of his anti-globalization and economic policies, the alignment with socially conservative values, the diversity within the Latino community, the rise of Black support, and the perception of Trump as a defiant leader. Meet Mateo Mocarzel, a 40-year-old graduate student from Houston, Texas. Mateo's background is a unique blend of Mexican and Lebanese heritage, which has shaped his perspective on politics. Growing up in Texas, Mateo was exposed to the rich history of the civil rights movement, as his grandmother played a significant role in fighting for equality during the 1960s. Texas, once considered a blue state, had a different kind of Democratic Party back then. It was characterized by racism and intolerance, unlike the ideological progressives we think of today. Mateo's experiences growing up were marked by encounters with racism, which made him question the political beliefs he had inherited from his family. People forget that Texas used to be a blue state, Mateo explains. The blue here wasn't like the ideological progressives that we think of now. They were more the old-school Southern Democrats, very racist, very intolerant. So it was a totally different party, and I had experiences growing up of a lot of racism. These experiences led Mateo to reevaluate his political stance. He was no longer willing to align himself with a party that had a history of racism and intolerance. Instead, he sought a new perspective that would better reflect his values and aspirations. The first time Donald Trump ran for president, Mateo was not convinced. He saw Trump as a celebrity talk show host who lacked the seriousness required for the presidency. He even considered Trump to be a ringer for Hillary Clinton, which further diminished his interest in the candidate. To be honest, I thought he was a ringer for Hillary, so I just wasn't interested, Mateo recalls. I didn't didn't take him seriously. Here's this celebrity talk show host guy that wants to run for president. I just thought, no, this is not the person I want leading our country. However, Mateo's upbringing in Texas played a significant role in shaping his view of both political parties. He recognized that Texas, despite its current reputation as a red state, had a history of being a blue state. This historical context allowed him to see beyond the party labels and consider the underlying values and ideologies. People forget that Texas used to be a blue state, Mateo emphasizes. The blue here wasn't like the ideological progressives that we think of now. They were more the old-school Southern Democrats, very racist, very intolerant. So it was a totally different party, and I had experiences growing up of a lot of racism. Mateo's experiences with racism in Texas made him question the prevailing narrative that painted Republicans as the sole perpetrators of racism. He realized that racism existed within both parties, and that the Democratic Party of his upbringing was not as progressive as it seemed. This realization opened Mateo's mind to alternative perspectives and allowed him to consider the Republican Party as a viable option. He began to explore the policies and ideologies of the Republican Party, seeking alignment with his own values and aspirations. The influence of Texas, with its complex political history, and Mateo's personal experiences, played a crucial role in his decision to cast his vote for the Republicans in the 2020 election. It was a departure from his previous political affiliations and a reflection of his desire for change and a fresh perspective. Neoliberal expansion has really hurt both Mexico and the U.S., Mateo explains. When you have family that live there, and you can see how it's hurt people living, their jobs, their wages, it really has increased the narco war. And this is one of the things Trump came in saying, hey, we're going to tear apart these trade deals, and then he actually did it. That was for me the first sign that he actually meant some of the things he was saying. Mateo's wife, Lily, a first-generation Mexican-American and a teacher, also supported Trump for economic reasons. She noticed an improvement in their salaries during Trump's presidency and appreciated his focus on economic growth. Despite colleagues in her union supporting Biden, Lily believed that Trump's policies had positively impacted their lives. The way I've been seeing him attacked, the lies, Lily explains. I never used to vote because I never felt my vote counted, and I feel like since Trump has been in office, our lives have improved. The economic impact of Trump's policies extended beyond Mateo and Lily. Many minority voters like them saw tangible improvements in their financial situations and job prospects. Trump's emphasis on job creation and economic growth resonated with those who felt overlooked by previous administrations. That brings us to the end of this video. For more interesting videos like this, click on the cards on your screen.